What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, back with another Week 3 preview. I believe this is our sixth one this week, so make sure to check out all our other Week 3 previews. You can catch up on Week 2 recaps and instant reactions as well in that Week 2 playlist. And if you're new, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it. And let's get right into it. This is a game that for me, as much as people are kind of overlooking it just because of the mismatch that it could be, for me, this is such an interesting game because it is an old Big 12 rivalry brought back from the dead. As you know, for Fox Big Noon kickoff, goes down to Norman as the Cornhuskers and the Sooners finally match up again. And the last time they faced actually was the Big 12 championship game in 2003, in which the Sooners claimed the 3-point victory, but a lot has changed since that night in 2003. Now, I'm so excited that we get to see this matchup come back to life after so many years of not seeing it. The Sooners do hold the, series lead with 45 wins. 38 wins for Nebraska and 3 ties. And the Sooners have won 6 out of the last 8 meetings, including that 2003 Big 12 championship. Now, for other storylines, though, the Cornhuskers come into this game 2-1. They've put together 2 straight impressive wins after falling to Illinois in the conference opener in week 0. But Scott Frost has to try to find a way to get that signature win, and there will be nothing bigger than upsetting the Sooners in Norman this weekend. So this Nebraska team is going to be pulling out all the stops and be doing everything they can to pull the big upset. Now, the Sooners week 1 criticized, highly by almost everyone as they almost fell to Tulane in a 40-35 game in which the Sooners just kind of let Tulane hang around, and they made a very strong run at the end. But they took all their frustration, all their anger out on Western Carolina last weekend with a 76-0 win over Western Carolina. They're looking to make another out of conference statement this weekend when the Cornhuskers come to town, and they're looking to show that that first week was just a fluke and that they are here to win another Big 12 championship. Now, the key for the Sooners, I want to move to that. What are the keys for the Sooners? It's obvious to me, and it's not what you would think I pick, but for me, it starts with establishing the rushing game, and therefore you can open up the play action game for Spencer Rattler in that passing attack. And for me, that is where Spencer Rattler has thrived the most this season. That's where the Sooners offense has been the most dynamic and the most explosive, is when they have a running game and Spencer Rattler can eat off that play action, and the wide receivers get more favorable matchups and they get more favorable coverages, things like that. Now, at running back, for me, the Sooners have one of the most dynamic 1-2 punches in the country. It starts with Kennedy Brooks, who will kind of be the workhorse guy. He'll probably, in my opinion, get most of the carries. And he has, I believe, the most experience of any other running back on this roster. Now, he's rushed for over 130 yards this season, 2 touchdowns, and he's averaging over 7 yards per carry. And he is primed because they've kept his workload pretty reasonable the first 2 weeks. He is primed to have a big weekend this upcoming weekend, just because this is probably the best defense they've faced thus far. And I would imagine that Kennedy Brooks gets to see his workload increase just a bit this weekend. And if he can continue the pace that he's on, Kennedy Brooks is going to be a problem. Now, my X factor in terms of this key is Eric Gray. I love this kid. He caught my eye as a freshman at Tennessee, and I said he was going to be a star. I think he's a more dynamic option out of the backfield, and he's the better running back out in space, where he is a matchup nightmare one-on-one in the open field, and he is going to make a defender miss, and he has the breakaway speed and the explosiveness to really make some down the field plays for Oklahoma. So I'm looking for him to get a bit more, carries, a bit more targets, whatever it is. I want to see him in the scheme a bit more this week. He has over 100 rushing yards and a receiving touchdown I just need him to be a larger part of this offense because, in my opinion, he is just lightning in a bottle. And if the Sooners can get him working with, Brooks on the in terms of the inside run, the Sooners are going to be almost impossible to stop. And I want to get to why I picked this key because part of me wanted to pick just let Spencer Rattler distribute the ball, just run the offense through him. The reason I picked establish the run game to lead into the play action is because Rattler right now is one of the highest graded quarterbacks in the country in terms of play action passes. The Sooners have 2 running backs that can set this up. They're dangerous. The defense is going to have to commit to stop the run. And thus far, over 52% of Rattler's dropbacks have been off the play action, and he grades out at a 92 according to Pro Football Focus in terms of passing grade on these play action concepts. When just on these play action plays, his completion percentage is almost 75%. Over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, and he's averaging his I guess the highest yards per pass attempt in these concepts with almost 10 yards per pass. That's off play action. It shows that he's moving the ball down the field. He's getting favorable matchups when that defense has to commit to stop the run. This has led already in 2 games to 19 first downs for the Sooners this season, which just shows how well this offense moves. If Rattler is able to go off that play action, the wide receivers are able to make plays, and Brooks and Gray are dynamic out of the backfield. If the Cornhuskers have to commit more players to the box, Lincoln Riley is going to dial it up, and the Sooners have elite playmakers all along the outside to make explosive plays happen. It's led by Marvin Mims, Mario Williams, Jadon Hazelwood, Michael Woods II, Austin Stoner. All those guys are going to be key factors here. So for me, I'm going with the play action. I'm going with the run game for the key for Oklahoma in this game. Now for the Cornhuskers, it is also establishing the run game, but it's in a different way and for a completely different reason. They're going to have a completely different offensive scheme than what the Sooners have. They don't have the playmakers on the outside. They don't have the 2 dynamic running backs like the Sooners do. It's a different case, and they don't have Spencer Rattler at quarterback. Adrian Martinez has done a great job through the air early in the season, but there are concerns about this offensive line and pass protection. So the run game has got to be efficient because if you can't stay in third and manageable, that pass rush is going to find a way to get to Adrian Martinez, and this offense is going to be in major trouble. You have to be able to establish some drives. You have to avoid turnovers. And if you find yourself in 3rd and long and you just keep having 3 and outs, your defense is going to get worn down, and this game is going to get out of hand extremely, extremely early, and you cannot have that if you're Scott Frost on the road. The offensive line's already given up 6 sacks in their first 3 games, but Martinez has yet to throw an interception. That is huge. He has 700 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, so he's been pretty decent through the air. The rushing attack, though, has to be more efficient and explosive. The Sooners are going to get points on a majority of their drives. That's just the type of offensive team they are. So the Cornhuskers have to win the time of possession and wear down this front 7 of Oklahoma. Marquise Stepp, Gabe Urban Jr. have to have their best game of the season this weekend. They have to show that they can be the focal point of a game plan, or the Sooners are going to be able to key in on Martinez down the stretch. And once this offense becomes one-dimensional, it's going to be a problem. Now, don't sleep on Martinez either and what he can do with his legs. He's actually the leading rusher for the Cornhuskers right now, 253 touchdowns so far. He has to make plays with his legs this weekend. The best case scenario is that Oklahoma always has to take a spot. So either you take one pass rusher away, which gives your offensive line better odds to pick up the blitz, to pick up pass rushers, and or you take someone away from coverage and you get a one-on-one matchup somewhere that you wouldn't have otherwise. And also, when the pocket breaks down, can Martinez turn a potential sack and a big loss into a 2-3 yard gain and or an even explosive play like he did with the 75-yard run in the third quarter against Illinois? The running game is also important. My last point here, it's because the Sooners have found the end zone, got touchdowns on 14 of their 15 trips to the red zone. In this game, you cannot match Oklahoma with field goals. If they're scoring touchdowns, you got to score touchdowns. And if it's 14-6, it's going to get out of hand. You have to match every touchdown they have with the touchdown for yourself. It's not enough in a game like this just to get points on the board. So that's why the running game is important. You have to be able to run it down on the goal line and make sure you get in the end zone and be dynamic with your play calling. Now, the matchup to watch is easy. It's got to be this Nebraska O-line against this dangerous Oklahoma defensive line, because for Nebraska, winning the line of scrimmage is the utmost importance, and protecting Adrian Martinez and passing downs in situations is also a huge, huge key for them. Now, the O-line is probably my biggest concern for the Cornhuskers this weekend. Like I said, they've lost 6 sacks, but they've allowed 30 hurries and 40 pressures in only 3 games against D-lines that do not have the depth and the talent that the Sooners D-line has. So for me, you have to have your best game of the season. And what tells a much graver story for me is that Nebraska's O-line grades out as one of the worst pass blocking offensive lines in the country, which is why one of their keys was establishing the run. This is from I believe left to right in terms of grades for this Nebraska O-line. 43.1, 56.4, 82.7 the center, playing outstanding. 66.1 for the guard and 34.1 for the right tackle. The 2 tackles at 34.1 and 43.1 are atrocious. The edge is a problem for the Cornhuskers because just the offensive tackles alone have allowed 20 pressures and 19 hurries this season. And the bad part for the Cornhuskers, that's the strength of this Oklahoma defensive line. The O-line has to find a way to keep Martinez comfortable in the pocket, because if it becomes one-dimensional and they find themselves in 2nd and 3rd and long, Oklahoma has the dogs on the front end of that defense to fight, to get in those pass rush lanes and make plays. Now, the D-line for the Sooners has already racked up 8 sacks and 40 hurries in only 2 games. They see a huge opportunity this weekend. It starts with Nick Bonito at the edge position, was the highest graded pass rusher in the country last season for edge players, and he could be the X factor. 13 sacks in his career, almost 20 tackles for loss, and he can be a game wrecker for the Sooners defense. But also, don't forget about Isaiah Thomas and Perion Winfrey, both of which have already combined for 4 sacks and are some of the highest graded pass rushers in the country as well. Reggie Grimes is also a guy you probably should watch out for. He's flashed his potential at times for the Sooners, and he should be the benefactor of Bonito requiring double teams, chip blocks, things like that. He'll find himself on an island. If Grimes can go make plays, it's going to be a long day for the Cornhuskers. So if the Cornhuskers can't protect Martinez and lose this matchup battle, the Sooners are running away with this one. And for my official prediction, I think it actually might be close, like early, like in the first quarter. I just think Oklahoma is too deep at wide receiver. Spencer Rattler is too good, and this defensive line is going to be able to get to Adrian Martinez, and they're going to have an impact and force him into some turnovers. I think Oklahoma pulls away, late in the second quarter, which the second quarter has, I believe they've outscored their opponent like 50-something to nothing their first 2 games in the second quarter. So I think from then on, Oklahoma's going to run away with this one. I have the Sooners 49, the Cornhuskers 20, and a huge win in Norman. So I got a pretty big margin of victory, but I just think Oklahoma is too deep at D-line, wide receiver, running back, quarterback. They just have right now a better overall team. So I think it'll be close early due to the emotion, but the Sooners are just too good, and Lincoln Riley gets a huge 49-20 win. So guys, hit that subscribe button and take some time right now to comment below your score prediction and your takeaways from this game, what you're looking for, what you're excited for, all that. Love to interact with you all in the comments, but make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure y'all tune into our other week 3 content that was released earlier this week and is coming later today and tomorrow. But guys, for the Blue Bloods right now, we are out.